Every man who's been in a relationship knows how quickly peace can turn into chaos. 1 minute, you're having a normal conversation, and the next, you're in a full-blown argument wondering what just happened. The truth is, women don't argue for the same reasons men do. While men argue to solve problems, women argue to feel understood. And the moment you forget that, you lose control of every disagreement. What most men don't realize is that conflict with a woman isn't about who's right. It's about emotional rhythm. She doesn't want you to win the argument. She wants to feel safe while expressing what's bothering her. But because men respond with logic instead of emotion, communication turns into confrontation. She raises her tone, you defend yourself, she feels unheard, and the spiral begins. The only way to stop fighting with a woman is to learn how to manage emotional tension without matching it. You don't fight her energy, you redirect it. You stop reacting to her words and start responding to her emotions. The strongest men in relationships don't argue. They lead emotionally. They know when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to pause before responding. They understand that a woman's emotions are like waves. If you push back too hard, you drown. But if you stay grounded, the tide eventually settles. This isn't manipulation. It's emotional intelligence. It's learning to protect your peace without losing your presence. A man who can handle a woman's storm without creating one of his own becomes untouchable. He earns respect through calmness, not control. Because once you learn how to navigate conflict without arguing, you don't just stop fighting, you start leading. 1. The power of emotional control. The moment a woman raises her voice, gets defensive, or becomes emotional, most men make the mistake of matching that energy. They argue back, defend their point, or try to win the disagreement. And that's exactly how they lose it. The key to never fighting with a woman is emotional control. Your calmness is your greatest weapon. When she becomes emotional, her brain moves into a state of expression, not logic. She's not looking for solutions yet. She's looking for emotional safety. If you respond with facts while she's in feelings, she hears indifference. She feels dismissed. And when a woman feels dismissed, her emotions intensify. That's why the argument escalates, not because of what was said, but because of how it was felt. The man who can remain calm, who doesn't react to her tone, who listens instead of defending, instantly shifts the power dynamic. She feels his energy, and her nervous system starts mirroring it. This isn't weakness, it's leadership. You control the direction of the conversation by controlling the emotional temperature. When she's upset, breathe before speaking. Keep your voice slow and low. Let silence do the work. Women feel tone more than words. When you stay composed, she subconsciously feels that you're in control, not of her, but of yourself. That stability creates safety. The argument loses oxygen when you refuse to feed it with emotional reactivity. And once she feels safe, she naturally softens. It's not about suppressing emotion, it's about mastering your presence. Because a woman can't keep fighting a man who refuses to fight back, not out of weakness, but out of strength. When you stay calm, you become the anchor in the storm, and she realizes that no emotional wave can move a man who truly knows himself. 2. Listen beyond her words. Most men listen to what a woman says. Few listen to what she means. When she's upset, her words might sound harsh or exaggerated, but behind every emotional outburst is a message she doesn't know how to express calmly. If you take her words literally, you'll end up reacting to the surface instead of addressing the core. When she says, "You don't care about me," she doesn't mean you've never cared. She means she doesn't feel cared for right now. When she says, "You never listen," she means she doesn't feel heard in this moment. The problem is that men tend to hear accusations instead of emotions, and that's why they become defensive. Listening beyond her words means filtering emotion before responding. Ask yourself, what is she really trying to say? You'll realize that most of her emotional reactions come from feeling unseen, unheard, or unappreciated. The moment you identify that, you shift from reacting to understanding. A woman calms down when she feels emotionally understood, not logically explained. So instead of arguing, validate her emotion. Say things like, "I see that this really upset you," or I understand why that made you feel disrespected. You're not agreeing that she's right. You're showing that you're present. Once she feels that, the tension drops. She stops fighting for acknowledgement because she finally has it. Listening beyond her words also means not interrupting her mid-emotion. Let her release what she's feeling. Don't rush to solve or defend. When she's done, respond slowly and intentionally. That space between her storm and your response is where control lives. The man who listens to emotion instead of reacting to tone gains her respect. Because in that moment, she stops seeing you as the problem and starts seeing you as the one who understands her. That's how you end arguments before they even begin. 3. Use silence. Strategically. Silence is one of the most powerful tools a man can use to prevent fights with a woman. Most men feel the need to respond immediately, to explain, justify, or defend. But rushing in with words while she's emotional only fuels the conflict. A woman's brain processes emotional stress faster than rational thought, and when you speak too soon, she hears resistance instead of calm. Strategic silence allows her to vent without creating escalation. It gives her mind space to feel and process her emotions. At the same time, your silence signals confidence and self-control. You're not withdrawing out of anger or fear. You're letting the storm run its course while you remain grounded. Many women unconsciously test men by provoking reactions. If you respond impulsively, you give her control. If you remain silent, she begins to mirror your calmness. The key is not ignoring her or punishing her with coldness, it's holding your presence steady. Sometimes, simply nodding, maintaining eye contact, or using small affirmations like, "I understand," while saying nothing else can be more effective than 1,000 words. Silence also gives you time to think. You can choose your response instead of reacting on impulse. A measured, intentional reply always lands better than an emotional rebuttal. The man who masters silence isn't passive. He's leading the emotional flow. Women notice it, they respect it, and more importantly, they stop fighting because they realize their energy doesn't control you. Your calm, silent presence becomes an anchor she can lean into, turning potential conflict into connection. 4. Choose your words carefully. When it's time to speak, every word counts. Women notice tone, energy, and intent far more than literal meaning. The wrong word, said too sharply, can ignite conflict even when your point is valid. The man who never fights with a woman learns to use language that diffuses tension instead of escalating it. Speak in statements, not accusations. Replace "you always," "mine," or "you never" with observations. "I noticed this happened and I want to understand." Avoid judgment or blame. Frame your words around solutions and understanding rather than winning an argument. Women respond to clarity paired with calm energy, not forceful logic. When you phrase things as an invitation to align rather than a demand to agree, she's less likely to feel attacked. Also, brevity matters. Long explanations or justifications feel defensive and can trigger more emotion. Keep it short, calm, and intentional. Your words should reassure her that you see her perspective, even if you don't agree. Pairing the right words with steady body language, relaxed posture, slow gestures, consistent eye contact reinforces your calm authority. Over time, she begins to trust that conversations with you won't spiral into conflict. You become predictable in a way that feels safe, consistent, composed, and grounded. This is how men turn potentially explosive disagreements into moments of connection. By choosing words carefully, you show that you're present, mature, and unshakable. Women respond to men who speak with precision, not volume. Master this, and arguments become unnecessary, not because she stops caring, but because she feels secure expressing herself around you. 5. Lead with calm energy. The most powerful way to prevent fights with a woman is to lead with calm energy. Your tone, pace, and presence set the emotional temperature of any interaction. When she's upset, she unconsciously mirrors your energy. If you're anxious, reactive, or defensive, she escalates. If you're calm, grounded, and confident, she starts to settle. Leadership isn't about controlling her. It's about controlling yourself. The man who remains steady creates an invisible anchor she can rely on. Women sense emotional authority instinctively. It's wired in. They respond to composure, not force, because calm energy signals safety. You don't argue to convince her. You show her stability through presence. Even subtle cues, a measured tone, relaxed posture, slow breathing, communicate that you're in control of your emotions. This encourages her to match your energy rather than amplify hers. Leading with calm energy also means not reacting to provocations. When she tests you with sharp words, passive-aggressive comments, or cold behavior, your lack of reaction demonstrates strength. You're not cold, dismissive, or unfeeling. You're unshakable. Over time, she learns that emotional manipulation doesn't work on you, which reduces unnecessary conflict. Calm leadership transforms potential fights into conversations because she feels safe expressing herself without fear of retaliation or judgment. The more you practice this, the more natural it becomes. Women don't need you to solve everything or always agree. They need you to remain composed while they express their emotions. That's how fights disappear and connection deepens. 6. Set boundaries. Firmly preventing fights with a woman isn't just about staying calm. It's also about setting clear boundaries. Many men avoid conflict by bending too much, tolerating behavior that frustrates them, or suppressing their own needs. This only leads to resentment and future arguments. A man who never fights knows how to communicate limits without aggression. Boundaries show that you respect yourself and expect respect in return. For example, if she raises her voice, you don't have to respond in kind. Calmly say, "I'm happy to discuss this when we're both calm." If she interrupts your space or personal time, enforce it gently but firmly. The key is consistency. Boundaries are meaningless if they're enforced sporadically or emotionally. Women notice when a man's limits are negotiable and unconsciously test them. Every time you uphold a boundary without anger or over-explaining, you reinforce your authority. Setting boundaries also reduces emotional chaos because she knows what behavior is acceptable. You're not controlling her. You're controlling your environment and your reaction. This clarity prevents misunderstandings from escalating into fights. Boundaries combined with calm presence create a predictable, safe environment. She knows what to expect, and you maintain your peace. A man who enforces boundaries with patience and composure stops unnecessary conflict before it begins. He doesn't need to argue because his standards are clear, and his energy reinforces them. When you protect your space while remaining present, she adjusts naturally, and disagreements turn into discussions instead of battles. 7. Focus on solutions, not blame fights. Often escalate because men and women get trapped in assigning blame. She focuses on how you made her feel. You focus on why her behavior was wrong. Both sides argue instead of solving. The man who never fights understands that conflict isn't about proving right or wrong. It's about resolving tension while preserving connection. Shift your focus from blame to solutions. Ask, "How can we fix this?" instead of saying, "You shouldn't have done that." Offer options and work collaboratively without lecturing. Women respond positively when they feel included in the resolution rather than attacked. Stay calm, listen actively, and propose ways forward without dictating. Even if she resists at first, your composed approach signals that you're prioritizing the relationship over winning. This prevents escalation because the conversation becomes constructive instead of combative. Over time, she learns that conflicts with you aren't battles to be won, but moments to grow closer. Your energy signals leadership without domination. She trusts that you can handle emotional tension without reacting impulsively. Arguments naturally fade because the focus is on progress, not personal attacks. The man who masters this skill doesn't need to fight to be respected. He demonstrates strength through composure, patience, and practical solutions. Women notice the difference, and they respond with cooperation, affection, and trust. Conflict becomes rare because your presence guides the interaction instead of reacting to her triggers. Never fighting with a woman isn't about avoiding issues. It's about handling them with emotional intelligence. Stay calm, listen beyond her words, use silence wisely, choose your words carefully, Lead with steady energy, set boundaries, and focus on solutions. When you master these strategies, arguments dissolve before they begin. You become the anchor in her emotional storms, earning respect, trust, and connection. Conflict stops controlling the relationship. You do. Calmness, presence, and strategy replace chaos, and that is the ultimate power a man can hold.